Number 9. George Lucas ruins the lightsaber and the Force all in one scene. Now all you geeks love the lightsaber, but the question is why? Well, a lightsaber is an otherworldly device. It's pure fictional awesomeness. It can cut through anything, even my ex-wife. Lightsabers also transform the Jedi into a kind of superhero. It's just a neat weapon. I mean, everyone wants one, and everyone wants to film themselves with one. So much it's gotten kind of annoying. However, like anything that's cool, if it's used too much, it becomes boring, except for cocaine. Luke used his lightsaber pretty sparingly, but when he took it out, you knew he meant business. That was probably because they didn't feel like doing the special effect for it so much. So again, the limitations made it cooler. But now in the prequels, things got out of hand. Maybe George didn't really know how to create and develop engaging sequences without having someone flash out the lightsaber. It's the very first thing that happens in episode 1. We can't go 5 minutes without them taking out the lightsaber. They do it when they hear a noise, for Christ's sake. Could have just been some kind of industrial accident that happened in the cargo bay. Don't you guys feel like fools now? Almost every scene requires the use of a lightsaber. Now I know they're Jedi and all, but I just kind of equate this to dangling a shiny object in front of a cat. You gotta try to keep the audience interested in the scene if it's not working, or if you don't know how to make it work. I actually like the scene the best where they all try not to get eaten by the monsters in the arena, because we see them doing things without the fucking lightsaber. It adds some tension, but then we can't go, oh, no, don't give it, oh. Now they got him again. What, they bring extra ones? Then them kids got him. This guy, robot guy's got him. You can't go too long without seeing a lightsaber. Lightsabers. Everyone's got a lightsaber. What's lightsaber? Lightsaber.
Oh, it's you.
But then my annoyance with the lightsaber goes even further than its overuse. It eventually becomes impractical in its own universe. Now you gotta really stop and think about this for a few minutes. Now the only reason why they had lightsabers from the beginning was because knights of the olden days had swords. It was kind of in the same way Star Wars was basically just like World War II in space. So Jedi Knights were like space knights. It's just a gimmick. The problem is that a sword is made for a 6-foot tall humanoid. But when you establish a multiracial Jedi Order that all use the same universal weapon, it becomes impractical. Each Jedi should really have their own unique weapons suited for them personally. For example, that one guy that looks like a squid, with all them tentacles swinging about. A lightsaber could really pose serious injury to his head. Be careful. Or that guy in the background with the really tall, thin neck. I know what I'd swing at if I were fighting him. Or what about this clumsy fat asshole? What if he just happened to be a Jedi? His big fat hands and his slow lumbering ass would fucking get killed by Darth Maul. Then you got that guy with no legs. How's he gonna get in a laser sword fight? And then of course Yoda. He shouldn't have had any lightsaber at all. But, despite all his wisdom and knowledge, Yoda eventually has to take out a tiny baby-sized lightsaber and fight a guy 3 times as tall as he is who has a much bigger lightsaber. My problem with this is that Yoda has a handicap based on his physical limitations, when his character should be above that sort of thing. Yes, I know they both tried to do more advanced things first, like throw rocks at each other, but even in other instances, Yoda has to make up for his size when using a lightsaber. One time he throws a lightsaber at a dude because he can't reach him. He's got to jump all the time. It must be tiring.
Size matters not.
Oh, I'm sorry, Yoda, it does. It does if you use a lightsaber. All your wise sayings have been ruined in the prequels. I'm so sorry. So in this scene, he flips around the cave and bounces off the walls because he's so small that he can't reach Dooku. My question is, if Yoda can do this, and they're basically pretty well matched as far as their use of the Force goes, then why wasn't Dooku also flipping off the ceiling too? Or what if Dooku just happened to be a 19-foot tall Gorgon with the 12-foot long lightsaber? Yoda would get squished like a bug. My point is, if you can match your opponent's skills with the Force, you'd then better also be physically strong too. And this goes against everything that the Force is about. You see, Yoda was so magical and interesting because you didn't expect this little tiny creature to be a Jedi Master.
Jedi Master?
We all had a preconception that a great warrior would be someone physically strong and intimidating.
I'm looking for a great warrior.
By making Yoda a little guy, they were illustrating that the Force is something beyond the physical. But by showing Yoda fight with the lightsaber, it ruins all that because it takes that concept and those rules and throws it in the dumpster, right next to Bambi. You see, I'm not even sure if Lucas actually understands Star Wars or anything that happened in The Empire Strikes Back.
We've seen him, but we've never actually seen him fight. This will be the first time you actually see him pull out that little laser sword of his and go to town.
Yeah.
So that's something that everybody's waiting for.
He just kind of seems like a retard that wants to see neat things happen with his computer. I don't know if he understood what made Yoda magical, and how making Yoda fight contradicts the entire mythology of the movie. More dumb kids. One of the greatest things about the original trilogy was that we never saw any children. I think one might have ran by the camera in Empire, but really no kids were involved at all. No irritating child actors, no cringe-inducing line delivery by kids that are obviously the children of the producers. None of that crap. But now we gotta see more kids. It's almost like Lucas thought he needed to have kids in the movie for kids to want to buy things from the movie. Like they would all want to be little Jedis themselves, just like in this scene. Imaginations work differently than that. Kids would want to play as Han Solo or Luke Skywalker, or want to be Lando blowing up the Death Star. No one ever wanted to be Gorban Zuma.
Because someone erased it from the archive memory.
Or that twerp. But we're forced to sit through another shitty scene that makes no sense. This one's bad enough because it's got 30 kids in it, but it's always bothered me for a lot of other reasons. Okay, so the scene is Obi-Wan seeks Yoda's help in finding Kamino, because it ain't in the records. He interrupts Yoda teaching a class or something. Right off the bat, this scene ruins the uniqueness of being trained by Yoda.
Was I any different when you taught me?
Now it's like a crowded public school or something. Then all the kids are wearing these stupid helmets and deflecting lasers shot at them by a floating ball that Luke used in the original Star Wars. Now call me crazy, but I always just assumed that Han Solo had a helmet there just lying around. You know, because he was a pilot. One with a blast shield down to protect your face from like space radiation or whatever. And since they were all playing games in the game room, I just kind of assumed that that ball was like a game or some kind of target practice thing. Kind of like Obi-Wan devised some kind of makeshift training exercise while they were killing time. But I guess it's an official training device for young Jedis. Are we supposed to believe that he had one of those training balls in his chest all those years and brought it with him? Why would he have that? I mean, is that really all they could think of to have the young Jedis do in that scene? Is something borrowed from the original movie? I mean, do we have to rely on the original trilogy so much for nostalgia imagery that we have to take this too? Can't you come up with anything new that's memorable? Boy oh boy, is it hard to articulate in words how stupid this scene is. I mean, everybody's standing so close to each other and they're barely moving their swords. But, like, they could easily cut one another, right? I mean, why aren't you doing this in a really large gym where everyone can spread out? And aren't they a little young to be handling lightsabers? I mean, look how clumsy the kids are holding them when Yoda's standing like 2 feet away. I don't know, this doesn't make sense to me. Also, I was always under the impression that the Jedi constructed their own lightsaber as a kind of rite of passage. Are these like training lightsabers? Maybe they get to use the ones from the adults who died before they can make their own. That was listed in the brochure that the parents read called, So You Want Your Child to Become a Jedi. Also, the point of this scene is that a child was supposed to propose the idea that someone deleted the planet from the archives.
Because someone erased it from the archive memory.
Wait, that was the best take you got from him? This was an idea that Obi-Wan hadn't considered, and it came from a fertile young mind. So basic movie-making logic suggests that you construct this scene where a handful of perhaps slightly older students are being taught meditation techniques to sharpen their thought process. That's when one comes up with the new, simple approach. That would at least have something to do with the Force. But instead, it's just another excuse to have a scene with lightsabers. Enough with the f***ing lightsabers. But we gotta stick with the logic that these movies are supposedly made for kids. And some kind of thoughtful meditation scene would be too boring. If we got a scene where all these children hold lightsabers, the kids will love it. After all, these are just simple movies made for kids and not adults at all, which is why they have assassination attempts, sexual innuendo, decapitations, kidnap, torture, and suggested rape, hookers, boring political dialogue, forced amputations, drug dealing, mass murder.
Don't try to escape like the other one! Time to go in the refrigerator!
Number 10. The dissolution of tension. Bigger is not always betterer. Star Wars Episode 2 proves that George Lucas is truly the master of the art of ruining things. People can't seem to get too involved in these movies, and they're probably not sure exactly why.
We're keepers of the peace, not soldiers.
They call them big video games, and they say they're too reliant on special effects.
It doesn't mean that technology is going to make the film any better. That has nothing to do with art.
Or it's because anytime there's a scene that could possibly have some tension and excitement in it, it's dissolved away by its own internal contradictions. Let's take the speeder chase, for example. The movie creates a dazzling environment of dangerous heights, nauseating speeds, and millions of things you can crash into. Then it totally ruins all of this by turning the rules of reality into a cartoony farce, thus dissolving all the tension away. Obi-Wan and Anakin are falling thousands of stories and jumping out of the speeder like it's nothing at all. The implausibility of things that happen in the scene are so astounding that it makes me laugh out loud. Becomes like a Warner Brothers cartoon. All these crazy visuals and effects, and it's no more exciting than if they just chased her on foot.
It's so dense, every single image has so many things going on.
Shut up! There's only one thing that's dense here, and it ain't the frame. Now this also includes the completely pointless and stupid robot assembly line sequence. I can guarantee you that if you threw a real person onto that assembly line, they'd get fucking killed in like 2 seconds. Next, Obi-Wan is flying his little ship around, and Boba Fett is firing at him with some kind of super rapid fire laser. He's got targeting sensors and scanners, and he can fire like 30 shots every second, and he seems to be right on the mark, but he can't hit him. Why can't he hit Obi-Wan's ship? He hits every single molecule around his ship but his ship. Instantly, all the tension evaporates. Then you watch him shoot even more. Flying and shooting and dodging rocks and flying in and out of rocks and things all over the place and shooting and more shooting and constant explosions and rocks, and so much happens so fast that you can't even process it with your brain.
It's so dense, every single image has so many things going on.
You see, you just can't start throwing tons of things on the screen because you can, and then make it go real fast and expect your audience to feel tension. Too much, too fast will disconnect the audience from reality and cancel out the excitement, because they gotta project themselves into the scene. We all understand the rules of physics in real life, and if you bend it too far, you sever the connection of the audience. It's why a sequence like this is nowhere near as exciting as this. Number 11. Big Dumb Ending. At last, we get to the big dumb ending, where we see the excitement and the passion that thousands of computer animators have for getting paychecks. So the big battle begins and the Jedi fight the robots. Mace and Obi-Wan meet up on the battlefield, and Mace asks Obi-Wan how the investigation into Padme's assassin is going. So Yoda shows up and starts an intergalactic war in order to rescue friends. First they need rescuing, then they need rescuing, then he starts dumping millions of clones to fight millions of robots, and somehow laments the whole war thing.
Begun. The Clone War.
Hey, you started it, idiot. So now we gotta sit through this seizure-inducing battle between two forces we don't care at all about. Robots and clones. At least in the last movie, we might have sorta cared about the Gungans a little. Oh, Christ, I'm referencing the Phantom Menace as a positive example? Okay, then Dooku leaves for some reason. Now, Dooku spent all his time on Geonosis hanging out in the Bug's fortress, right? But when he goes to leave, he gets on a flying motorcycle and flies away to a different hangar bay that's like 75 miles away. Then the Jedi chase after him, and I guess Padme falls out of the ship. Now, they didn't really know where Dooku was going. They might have suspected it was a hangar bay, but it could have just been a ship somewhere. Maybe he wasn't going anywhere. Maybe he was leading them into a trap where there's a whole second front of battle droids waiting for him. Point is, when Padme lands on the sand, she says,
"We've got to get to that hangar."
"How did you know they were going to a hangar bay? Did you read the script too? What's that in the sand over there? Is that the script?" So Anakin and Obi-Wan find Dooku, and then Obi-Wan says,
We'll take him together. You're going slowly on the left.
"Going slowly on the left? What the fuck does that mean? You're not chiseling a marble statue here. Don't you know how fast these fights can go? Plus, Dooku can hear what you're saying." So then lightsaber fight 873A begins, difficulty level 8. Anakin and Obi-Wan are both low in force power and energy levels from fighting in the arena and the battle. However, Dooku's power levels are at 100% because he hasn't had to exert himself yet. He starts off with the Force Bolt, directed at Anakin, causing him to lose a great deal of his force power. Obi-Wan then deflects his Force Bolt with a move called Force Block, using his lightsaber. Obi-Wan is tired. His stamina and force power is rapidly diminishing. This allows Dooku to get the best of him. Anakin's had a moment to rest, and he's recharged his force power enough to use Force Jump and deflect Dooku's attack. Obi-Wan tosses Anakin his lightsaber, and Anakin goes into Twin Saber Assault mode. Dooku knows he doesn't have time to mess around, and he needs to get off Geonosis quickly. He has a good amount of force power left, so he uses some of it with something called Sith Block, a power where the dark side causes momentary confusion. Dooku cuts Anakin's arm off and then force pushes him again. And Yoda comes, some other things happen, they warn him about grave danger again, then they just do nothing. Guess the Emperor got the army, Anakin marries whatever.
Welcome back, Lord Tyrannus. Thank you, my master. But what happened back there, well, I'm really not sure. What do you mean you're not sure? Well, Yoda showed up with the clones, and they fought the robots. And I'm not sure who won. Excellent. I must now change my pantaloons. It appears I have shat myself.
Why don't they just tell the Galactic Senate that Obi-Wan Kenobi found a clone army on Kamino? I mean, especially after they're about to vote for a clone army, right?
No, none of it makes sense.
All those years ago.
I never knew how bad this movie was. I mean, I heard, but I didn't think it would be this bad.
And now that I'm with you again, I'm in agony.
Thank you for sharing this with me.
The closer I get to you,
Sure.
the worse it gets.
Let's go back to the movie. This is
The thought
a romantic
of not
scene
being
here.
with you,
Were you ever married?
tormenting me.
Did you have a wife?
You should
I
never
had
have given me
3 of them, actually. They all died in unrelated accidents, though.
hoping
Oh, that must have been awful. And all 3 of them died tragically.
Number 12. Oh, George. The original Star Wars movies borrowed from earlier iconic imagery in order to create the look of the movie. With clones, it's just whatever they could shove in there from varying unrelated sources, even taking things from the previous films. You see, in May of 2000, Lucas must have seen Gladiator and decided that he also wanted an arena in his movie. But his was gonna be bigger and betterer. Then I guess there was an attempt to outdo Ridley Scott even more by making a futuristic city that was much bigger and betterer than the one in Blade Runner. My computers are better than yours. The line between paying homage and ripping off starts to blur at this point, but the worst is yet to come when clones begin stealing things from Empire. At some point, someone told George Lucas that the second act in a 3-act dramatic structure is when all the characters are at their lowest point. I think he learned this after the people who knew what they were doing made Empire Strikes Back, because he seems to attempt to copy a lot of that movie in Episode 2. Unsuccessfully, I might add. Now, what do I mean by lowest point? Well, typically a story is divided into 3 acts. The first act sets everything up. The second act puts the characters through some challenges, i.e. the drama. And the third act, they begin to work against the problem and ultimately overcome it. If you look at each trilogy as its own contained story, then the second film should be the darkest one. Empire pulled this off perfectly, of course. Because I love Empire so much, I f*** it. In episode 2, nothing like that really happens. Nothing much happens at all, except for you could say they get the clones, I guess. It's a colorful mishmash of stuff that happens that bridges the gap between episode 1 and episode 3. However, Lucas lifts a lot of the iconic elements and imagery from Empire and shoves it into this film wherever he can. This is just to form some kind of connection with the franchise's best film, and to make it seem like this is the darkest chapter of the new trilogy. First off, it's love. Empire had the subtext of romance in the darkest of times. Clones attempts to recreate that but fails in every way possible. Then while having a much different story, Attack of the Clones borrows so many visuals from the Empire it's comical. Some so subtle you might not have even noticed, but your brain did. Leia and Padme are both dressed in white, a sequence in an asteroid belt. Things that look like Bespin ships, the fast-paced, low, cavernous reveal shot. Boba Fett appears in both films, sticking your ship onto something else to avoid detection by scanners. A city above the clouds. A city above the water. Space junk floats out the back of a ship. Slave 1 tracks a ship, and a ship tracks Slave 1. C-3PO gets taken apart in an industrial conveyor belt type place, and R2-D2 drags him around. A plastic tube gets cut in half by a lightsaber, and there's an attempt to recreate the smoky, dim conditions of the Empire duel. Anakin loses his arm, Luke loses his hand. Falling. And that ends pretty much on the same shot. C-3PO and R2-D2 were both there, and there's the reveal of the robot hand.
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme...
Thank you, I got it.
Every stanza kind of rhymes with the last one.
Okay, got it, thanks.
Hopefully
Stop.
It'll work.
Stop! Having a creepy Skeletor hand. Oh wait, we're done with that part, right? Then there was one last thing I wanted to mention. After finally working up the courage to tell Han that she loves him, and exposing her true feelings, Leia fears that she might have lost him forever. There's a last-ditch effort to save him, but they're too late. She watches the ship fly off. This could be the last she ever sees of Han Solo, the man she loves. It's pretty heartbreaking and filled with a lot of heavy emotions. In Clones, a similar type of thing happens. Padme fires at a fleeing ship on a landing platform. Someone named Count Dooku is on it, who's going to do something. Certainly not getting misty-eyed over this. If you compare Empire with Clones in this way, you can see a vast difference from the realism of actual locations and sets to the phony, plastic, cartoony, unrealistic environments. From a real Yoda who was there to teach us things about the Force, to a fake-looking computer Yoda who was there to do video game shit. And most importantly, a love story that felt like real people that we grew to care about, struggling in a tough situation. But rather characters we are told we should like, with no more depth than a cardboard cutout projected against a fake background.
For my ally is the Force. And a powerful ally it is. Life creates it.
I need a midichlorian count.
Makes it grow.
The reading is off the chart.
Its energy surrounds us.
Over 20,000.
And binds us.
Even Master Yoda doesn't have a midichlorian count that high.
Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter.
This weapon is your life.
You must feel the Force around you. Yes.
With the new digital technology and everything, I'm pretty much, whatever I can imagine, I can do. We have clones and droids and flying termites and rockets taking off, flying gunships, ground troops, 200 Jedi.
There's some really good action in this movie. People are getting wiped out, man. There's some wipeouts in this movie.
And then they get trapped into this droid factory. We see Jedi in large battle scenes, battling as a large group. And before, we've never seen that before. There's always been a couple of Jedi fighting each other.
These are the real flaws of the prequels, not the tiny nitpicking about things, but the major problems.
Every single frame, every single shot in the movie has a digital effect.
Pretty much every set has blue screen, even if it's just out a window or something.
It's everywhere. I think I've been on one set where there hasn't been any blue screen.
The guy who's creating that character will create their responses off how you respond to their responses that aren't there. It's a nightmare.
When you suck out the humanity from the films and replace it with the ease of digital filmmaking, well, it just sucks. Email me if you want a pizza roll. Post a comment on this web zone and I will email you a pizza roll. Please visit my web zone. Stop by and say hello. Talk about this review and other things on the fan zone. If you stop by, there's a bucket of pizza rolls in the corner of the room next to the mop. My cat ain't gonna milk itself. So, what'd you think?
It was just awful. Harry.
Yeah.
I have an idea.
What's that?
Let's watch episode 3. I want to see how this fucking schlock ends.
Oh, baby, I haven't even started my review of episode 2. I was planning on doing that after I dump your body.
Oh, please, Harry, we can watch it together. We can find all the pointless inconsistencies, nitpick it apart like huge nerds, and expose George Lucas for the hack that he really is.
Oh, honey pie, you're saying all the right things to me right now, you know that.
Oh, this is all just so fascinating. Just to think, all these years, I could have been making reviews on YouTube instead of shooting up and turning tricks.
Well, what are you waiting for, baby pie? Stick it in. Stick it in. You know where it goes, don't you? I bet you do. Yeah. That's right, sweetie pie. You know how to do that. Right. Oh, yeah. And Star Wars movies. There we go. Yeah. Play that disc, baby. Oh, you're not going to be able to unbelieve it. I can't wait to watch this. Who is FBI? And what is he always warning me about? Yeah! Alright, we're gonna watch episode 3. It's gonna be amazing. I'll find all the flaws and details. It's gonna be great. Well, not the movie, but finding all the flaws and details of the movie. Alright. What's this? Is this the Jedi library? I don't remember this scene. What's going on? What? Baby, stay out! Hey!
What in the fuck? You lied to me! You tricked me!
She lied to me. She lied to me.